Hello everybody! Welcome into my latest live video. It is Tuesday, the 25th of October, 2022. I'm Kerry Holzman. Hello to all my regulars in our amazing community that are already in the chat room geared up and waiting for the show to begin. I appreciate your enthusiasm and I appreciate you being here. And if you're new here, well, you have a rare opportunity to join the most amazing, kind, supportive community on the internet. And all you have to do to qualify to join us is to be kind. It's really very simple, and there's always room for more kind individuals in our community. So we're going to start this video today talking about a few things. I'm going to kick off, first of all, RoboForm. We're going to bring that deal, well, the deal is back on, but we're going to bring Simon from RoboForm back on in the coming weeks to talk about the new features of the latest version of RoboForm, and of course just the basics for people who are new to the channel to understand what RoboForm is and how I personally can't live without RoboForm. It's a password manager. It can help you to create and store your passwords securely. They've never had a data breach. They've been around about 2 decades, I want to say. I've been using them at least 15 years, probably a little longer, and it manages all the hundreds of passwords that I utilize, and it's basically helps keep me hack-proof. Now, we'll talk more about that. The 60% off offer is active today. We have a new URL, and this year, the folks at RoboForm have decided that the 60% offer is only for new customers. I repeat, only for new customers this year. You can, RoboForm is a subscription service, as should be all password managers, in my opinion, and you can have up to a maximum of a 5-year subscription. And in years past, you were able to extend your subscription to RoboForm with the discount code. This year, they, for whatever reason, are doing something different and want to encourage people who have never purchased RoboForm before to do so at this extraordinarily low price. You know, with inflation and everything being as expensive as it is, you know, I used to compare the price of RoboForm to me by myself going to Arby's for lunch. Well, Arby's has gotten way more expensive, and now it just makes the RoboForm deal look even sweeter, since you can get a year of subscription for less than the price of your own lunch at a fast food place. So I think it's a great value. Now, RoboForm does have a free trial. You can go to roboform.com to download the trial, see how it works. They have tutorial videos, and you can also search my YouTube channel for previous videos on RoboForm. Some people who are regular viewers might see a lot of repetitive content. Well, I keep saying the same things because we have new viewers joining us every day. I have well over 1,000 brand new viewers every day, and those viewers have no concept of anything I've said in the past. And much like when you listen to the radio station, every time a talk show comes back from a commercial, they always have to reintroduce the talk show and who the guest is or what the subject matter is, because people are constantly flipping through the radio stations. So if you're a regular member and you hear repetitive content, it's not that I have a shortage of things to say, because clearly if you've been watching, you know I can talk about a lot of different things for hours and hours and hours. Please have consideration that we always have new viewers. We always want to make them feel welcome. And these videos then, after I air them live, they might become recommendations to other future viewers who have not yet discovered this channel. And they might be watching this video a year from now as the very first video they've ever seen of mine. So that's why that happens. And as a reminder as well, for those of you who may have forgotten some of the things that I think are very important, they bear repeating out of the urgency or the importance of the information, in my opinion. So apart from that, that's the minor stuff, right? Little repetitive things you might hear. But the bulk of the content, 80–90% of the content, is all new and fresh every video. So even if it's a subject matter I've covered before, I will cover it in a completely different manner. Otherwise, I could just re-air the episode, like have a rerun and save myself the trouble. So if it's worth me doing, even if it's something I've done before, I will do it differently to ensure that brand new viewers who've never seen me before get a complete picture of the subject of that video, and viewers who have seen the subject, the content before of that subject, are getting another perspective or a different take on it. So that's why that happens in this business. And I want to talk a little bit about some news items, like people on Reddit. There's a couple of forums, people talking about their 4090 graphics cards, those little power cable adapters they're using. They're starting to melt for some people. And then AMD has responded their new Radeon cards will not be using that new power cable requirement that NVIDIA has been adopting. And this is what comes along with brand new hardware. I've warned you. I've told you what to expect. If you expected some brand new product to be cheap, available, and trouble-free, I don't think you understand new products. So when you buy stuff, as one of the first consumers of buying a brand new product, you should anticipate there's going to be unexpected problems. That's part of the introduction of a brand new product that has some unforeseen wrinkles that need to be ironed out, including the new Intel Arc graphics cards. Those graphics cards they're decent, but they're a first generation product. They still have a lot of driver related issues they have to work out. Some games themselves have to be updated to recognize that graphics card to enable things like, I'll think of the word here, ray tracing. Sometimes it's not the graphics card driver, but the game you're playing that has to whitelist that graphics card as enabling that feature. So that's going to take some time. And if you're going to be an early adopter of new technology, that's what you should expect, is for things to be a little rocky for up to a year in most cases. The first 6 months is usually the worst of it. The second 6 months is typically not very pretty either. But as you approach that 1 year mark, things start to get ironed out. When the next generation of Intel Arc graphics cards is released, ideally, not only will the technology be more improved and polished, but so will the drivers and compatibility and software, etc. will be updated by then. So nothing of a surprise here for me to share the information about the 4090. I always know something's coming. I don't necessarily know what it is. No surprise on the Intel Arc. No surprise on pretty much any of this new technology. It's par for the course. It's what to expect. And don't buy into new technology if you consider that to be nightmarish and you don't want to deal with it. If you wait a year, you'll get a better price. It'll be easier to find it in stock in most cases. And it'll be a more pleasant experience of utilizing that new software or hardware versus going through the growing pains of new technology. Believe it or not, some people love going through those pains. They love being on the cutting edge and things not working and feel like they're a part of something to help make something better. And thank goodness for them, right? Because it takes the burden off of those of us who can wait. So just set your expectations accordingly on any new technology, including, say you wanted a brand new car, the new electric Hummer from GM or the new Ford Bronco. There's going to be problems. Hyundai and Kia recalling a bunch of cars. They have a bunch of new cars that are just come out this year. I wouldn't be buying a first generation car. Might lease one, but then again, I might not. My preference is to not have to take it into the shop to deal with recalls and repairs, especially a new car. So that being said, I just want to put that information out there so you guys are empowered with making decisions, informed decisions that will meet your expectations. Now, I have links in the video notes below this video to PC World Magazine's article on the 4090 connectors melting, power connectors, and the not all 4090s, just a few right now. And of course, AMD's response that they're not even going to use that connector anyway, or that ATX 3.0 standard. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The subject of today's video is about Microsoft offering a free optimizer for Windows, but it's only available in China. You know, products like CCleaner have become a common name for people that are Windows users. And CCleaner, sometimes called CCleaner incorrectly by people who don't know why it's called CCleaner. It was called Crap Cleaner, but the name, you know, as it got bigger, the name seemed inappropriate, especially for business use. And so they just changed it to CCleaner from Crap Cleaner. These days, much of the utilities that were used for system maintenance in Windows XP, Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows Millennium, Windows 7, they become less and less necessary. Driver software, all that stuff these days, any system optimizers and any driver updater software, I would recommend removing it all from any Windows 10 or Windows 11 system. It is a complete waste of your time. In fact, they typically are known, these software utilities, for eventually creating problems where before you didn't have any problems. People seem to be obsessed with wanting to eke out every little ounce of performance from their computers that were otherwise working fine and they had no complaints, but they just wanted to make it better. I love this machine, how can I make it better? That drives me out of my mind as a technician. Ideally, the machine is meeting your needs, and in your attempts to make it better, you need to set your expectation that you might just damage the computer and make it non-functional, requiring repair. And if you're okay with taking that risk, have at these software utilities. But many of the software utilities have been added to Windows over the years, kind of quietly. But Microsoft Windows 10 and Windows 11 have much of the same utilities that CCleaner offers already built into the operating system, so you don't have to add any third-party software and endure that risk. Now, some people might say, I've been using CCleaner for years and I've never had a problem. I'm not saying you're going to have a problem. I'm saying that by using these utilities, you're opening up the possibility. And if you don't use these utilities, that possibility doesn't exist for that reason. That's all I'm saying. If you are a gambling person, or if you feel like you're very confident because your experience has always been positive, then by all means, continue to use it. If your system should one day start having a problem after that, remember what I said, however long it takes for that to happen, if it happens. So what's interesting though, is this is a tool from Microsoft that they only make available in China for some reason. They say it's a beta, but you know, software companies as big as Microsoft and Google want to call everything beta because let's face it, no software is ever truly done and they don't want to open themselves up to any liability. So there's a link in the video notes below to the Chinese, well, it's pcmanager.microsoft.com. And when you bring it up, it's all in, I don't know, Mandarin or Cantonese. People will say it's in Chinese, which, you know, Chinese isn't a language, but there's a big blue button. That's your download link, and the program is all in English. So what I thought I'd do is we go check it out on this machine here. This is going to a veteran. This is a giveaway machine. And I thought, let's load it up here and show you what it does. Essentially, all it's doing is it's bringing to the forefront all of the built-in utilities. It's not adding any new utilities, but it's sort of bringing them all into one interface. So there's really nothing new here. I don't know why it's beta, but we'll take a look at it today. It is free. BH Ringer in the chat says, I downloaded and installed the beta of PC Manager yesterday and I'm in Canada. Well, it is the World Wide Web, meaning it's available to everybody in the world. So unless you're on a different planet, doesn't matter what country you're located in. The app itself is only in English, by the way. Now, why the market is limited to China for the distribution or the exposure of this product, I don't understand. There's probably some legal or marketing concerns that vary from one country to the next. However, it is from Microsoft, and I can't emphasize enough. If you have any software optimizers, if you have any driver updater software, if you were my customer and you were paying me to consult with you about your computer, I would advise you to remove those utilities, take them off, uninstall them as soon as possible. They are, I've jokingly said in the past, they have more or less bought my car because of the problems they cause. And then I end up getting the phone call to come in and fix it. And quite often, in fact, 9 times out of 10, or probably 99 times out of 100, when I ask the customer why they installed it, or why they ran this utility, they thought it would be a good idea. And I said, okay, but why did you think that would be a good idea? What problem were you having? Wasn't having any problem is what I often hear. So the computer you thought maybe would be faster? Yes. Or more reliable? Yes. Okay, so your computer's slow? No. Your computer crashes? No. So your computer is super fast, it doesn't crash, and you're not happy. You want to see if you can make it better. You know what this is like, don't you? This is like somebody who takes a couple of aspirin and says, wow, that worked really well. I'm going to take the whole bottle so it'll work better. This is the kind of person that said, oh, this Halloween candy is delicious. I think I'm going to eat all of it right now. This is this person that says, well, if 5 quarts of oil is good for my car, imagine what 10 quarts would do. There is always a pivot point where the exact opposite happens. Too much of anything is bad, including money. And anybody who thinks otherwise has never had a lot of money. Anyway, my advice as a professional computer technician, if you were my customer paying me, is take that stuff off, don't use it. If you have a problem that you are trying to resolve, come into our community or go online and find other communities where you can help, others can help you diagnose and correct the problem. If you have a machine that's working perfectly fine and you're just bored or you're curious as to how you can make it even better, quite often you will notice no difference at all after running any of these utilities, or you break the machine in such a way that it requires a repair. Those are typically the only 2 outcomes. I don't know why people do this to themselves. It's almost like masochistic. It's almost like self-harm. I can't advise you enough that unless you enjoy having computer problems, if it's working, use it. That's the other thing that I find very interesting as a computer technician when I hear from others that they don't really use the computer for anything that requires any extra performance. They're just doing it just because. Because at the end of the day, let's just say their imagination was correct, that by running these system utilities, their system would be faster and more reliable, even though it was already fast and already reliable. Even if that were true, they're not typing any faster. They're not using their computer any faster. They're not getting any more done. Most people have more power in their computer than they know what to do with. They don't use it. Apart from running some benchmarks, their gauging fast is completely skewed, and they're believing some piece of software as though its judgment of your computer's performance is unquestionably undeniable fact, and it's simply not true. These benchmarks are great for the competitive nature of people online who somehow get some form of a boost mentally that they're better than somebody else. However, I would encourage you to be happy with what you have and take care of what you have, and don't worry what somebody else has. You're not in their shoes. You don't know their story. You don't know that somebody who's posting these benchmarks doesn't have a machine that's constantly crashing that they're not telling you about, or that they've just dumped a whole bunch of money into their system that you don't have and you don't want to do, but they're not exposing that part. They're only telling you the part of the story that they want you to hear. And if you feel, challenged by that, or you feel like, oh, I want to do what they're doing, you're going to get the other side of the story. Yeah, eventually. You might have a positive experience for a while, but creating that habit is a bad habit. I encourage you to actually use your computer. Do something with it. Now, I realize some people, and they make up a very small minority of computer owners, the whole reason, the vast majority they have a computer is to eke out as much performance as possible for no particular reason, just because they see that as a challenge and it's their own reward when they get the benchmark numbers back, right? There are some gamers who might make some settings changes in Windows to enhance a game by a small percentage that only they or others like them would even so much as notice. So I want you to understand that when you're hearing from people online, you don't know their personalities. You don't know, are these people you would even like if you met them in person? Why would you want to be like them? My question to you is, how do you personally feel about your computer? Do you feel like it's fast and reliable and quiet? Do you have any complaints? If so, I'm all about encouraging people to seek out to help themselves online for information on how to resolve those issues. But in most cases, poor performance is typically something only money can fix. There's only so much you can do by clicking the mouse versus adding more RAM or getting a better processor or a better motherboard or a faster storage drive or faster internet connection. Money will solve the problem. Thinking you're getting away with something by not spending the money and by exploiting to every ounce of performance the hardware you currently have is a fool's game, in my opinion. It's something that sort of, it's like scraping the bottom of a barrel. There's only so far down you can go. And I don't know that competing against how far down in the barrel you can go is anything I personally would want to boast about. So, you know, it's good to accept what you have and make the best of it and utilize it. Utilize it in a way that you could earn some money, if that's the case, to build a better machine. These things don't last forever, and it's great if we can get a few more years out of them. However, being a demanding user who also is on an extreme budget just don't mix well, and typically don't end well in my experience. I don't know how many people are successful. I get the calls from the people who aren't. That's all I get. If somebody's going to call me with a problem, and it's self-inflicted and completely avoidable and unnecessary, I just shake my head and I do the job and I get paid. So in that way, I'm a terrible businessman. I should encourage you to run all these utilities so that you can eventually one day be more likely to have a system problem that would result in paid work for me. See what a bad businessman I am? Instead, I'm advising you. If you want your system if your system's good and stable and fast today, and you want it to stay that way, don't mess around with that stuff, man. Or at the very least, make an image backup of your system so you can always put it back if there's damage you realize 3 months from now. Sometimes the damage you cause through these utilities isn't exposed right away. It could be something that is a problem in the future, and you will not associate that problem in most cases to what you did months earlier. That makes it very difficult to diagnose for those customers. So again, just setting expectations to be realistic, and what decision you make is your decision to make, and it's your consequences, be it positive or negative. But I want you to understand what you're engaging in, and that it's not always going to be positive. It's not always going to result in any improvement beyond a psychosomatic belief that by running it now your system's faster. But if you did any actual testing, even just grab a stopwatch, test your boot up time. In most cases, you'll find that it's a placebo. Windows 10 does a great job, as does Windows 11, of self-maintenance. And trying to second guess it or improve upon it usually is an exercise in futility, and your time could be far better spent, in my opinion. But if you insist on running one of these utilities, running the utilities built into Windows is what I recommend, except in extreme cases. Now, the PC Manager that Microsoft has released in China in beta is nothing more than bringing together all the built-in utilities. It's not introducing anything new other than the interface. That's all it is. So we're going to bring up this machine here, and what do I have to do to turn this on? I think everything's plugged in. We'll go to the website and we'll check it out together. It's very safe to use because it's utilizing the already proven and tested utilities that are built into Windows. All it is an interface. So as far as like being buggy, it's possible there could be a bug in it, but it doesn't seem likely. That's why this whole thing being a beta is kind of silly. But we'll let that boot up here in a second. And if you have any questions for me in the chat room, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer, as well as many of our chat room participants are also very well versed in technology. And of course, I always encourage you guys to help each other. Terry Hughes says, I have no computer problems. I took your advice. I got an Intel 11900K and it is fast. Yeah, the 11900K is fast for sure. The 12900K a little faster. The 13900K a little faster. Not much. So right on, good for you. And if you did that recently, it means you didn't pay top dollar for that 11900K when it first came out. Oystein with a $100 or 100 krona, Norwegian krona contribution. He says, I'm happy with my PC, even if my 3D Mark is not at the best. Yeah, well, who cares, right? Who cares what 3D Mark thinks? Again, comparison. Whenever you compare things, that is the sole cause of unhappiness. If you could train yourself to stop comparing things, you could avoid unhappiness for the rest of your life if you were mindful enough and self-aware enough to recognize the reason you're unhappy is because you're comparing that moment, that thing that's making you unhappy, you're comparing it to something instead of just accepting it for what it is and always knowing everything is temporary. Whatever it is, you'll get past it. Now, I missed a contribution here, I think. Let me scroll up. Billy Zoo with a $5 Australian dollar contribution in Super Chat. Hey, Billy, thank you for that. I do have the chat room open to the entire public today, so my friends in blue, please keep an eye out for the spammers and the bots and the... I always try to think of a way to express the people who don't get it, people who miss the boat. What a shame for somebody to come in here who has the potential to be a wonderful, welcoming part of this community to dismiss that value because they're just doing it to themselves. It's their loss. Of course, the community loses out too because if they're not genuinely contributing their ideas or saying hello to people and building those friendships, we're missing out on what could be amazing friendships because those people have made that decision for no reason whatsoever. It's an interesting and bizarre choice that people make of their own free will, but I don't want it to disrupt our community or this video. So I appreciate my friends in blue just being aware of that and nipping that in the bud should it occur throughout today's broadcast. I don't always put the chat room open to anyone because it was attracting people, a certain percentage of people who were looking to cause problems as their form of entertainment, and it was getting old. You have to remember, I've been doing YouTube since 2008, and it's just so 2005 to act that way. People need to find another way to behave that's original instead of just doing what the people before them have done. They're just, I don't know, it's like they're living in the past. So for me, after so many years of just the same thing over and over and over, I'm just waiting for these people to catch up with the rest of us or come up with something, some new idea on their own instead of just repeating the same old things. They're not being ingenious or innovative in any way. And even if they just started doing it today, well, congratulations, 2005 called. They want their internet behavior back. Anyway, that's what they choose to do. Well, we can choose to ban them from the channel so they can't participate. I hate having to do that to people, but they're doing it to themselves, So anyway, this thing I'm sure is booted up a long time ago. Let me get the screen shared over here. Let's see, that'll be my HDMI input. I'll put myself in a corner. Hey, look at that. There's our desktop. What a shocker. Video notes. You guys, does anybody here not know what video notes are? Video notes are located below this video. So if I bring up, for example, let's go back to this computer here. And let's go to YouTube. And below every video, every single video, there are video notes. So if we click on today's video, like you presumably did to join us in the chat room, if you look down below the video, there's a bunch of information like thumbs up, how many views it has, how many people are watching, when the stream started, or how long the video is if it's not live anymore. And then below that, you'll see, below my name, a bunch of information. So we have links to the RoboForm offer mentioned earlier, the articles about the new Microsoft PC Manager that you can click on, and articles about the RTX 4090 owners reporting melting 12 VH power cables, and AMD's response. There's an article. There's a couple deals going on with the SanDisk 1 terabyte flash drives. 1 terabyte, $129 for a little tiny pocketable 1 terabyte of fast USB 3.2 storage. That's a good price. It's normally around $150, $160. It's been around $200 for some reason for about 6 weeks. And then below that, the Intel 660, the 1 terabyte NVMe drive, it's a budget drive. Those are still on sale for $69.99. Man, I'd snatch those up where you can. That's a name brand drive. It is a budget drive. It's not a performance drive, but it's reliable. It's from a reputable manufacturer, to say the least. And look at that price, $70 for a terabyte of NVMe storage from a name brand manufacturer. Those are all Amazon US prices, including free shipping and delivery for, certainly for Amazon Prime users. Not quite sure if free delivery is offered because it's over $35. It might be. So check that out. And again, all the video notes and every video you've ever watched here on YouTube, they all contain video notes. And the content creators, they put time and effort into making those video notes, some more than others. I check it for grammatical and typographical errors, ensure the links are accurate. So be sure and help yourself there. Whether you're watching on a tablet, a smartphone, or a TV, it's still accessible to you. You just gotta play around, either get the YouTube app for your smart device or use your remote on your TV and use the arrow buttons. You should be able to find it. Okay. So again, we can see the chat room happening over here in this video. Right on. Let me go up here and let's go to, I think it's pcmanager.microsoft.com. I think that's what it is. Yes, this is it. So as you can see, the site comes up. Again, it could be Cantonese or Mandarin, I'm not sure. We can have it attempt to translate. Let's see what it does. Interesting little overlay there. We're going to go ahead and just hit the blue button, regardless if it's in a foreign language. The download is in English. It's about, 6 megs, I think. It's not a very big download. It shouldn't take very much time to download it. Even on a slow internet connection, there's just not a lot to download. And I realize my video is covering up the little download progress bar there. Again, this is not a utility. This is an application that Microsoft has developed that ties in all of the utilities that are already in Windows. So it's really nothing more than an interface. So that's why it's a small file. There's not a lot to it. Corey wants to know in the chat room if I've thought about creating a Discord server. The question should be, Corey, why I no longer have a Discord server. What happened to the Discord server? Again, people living in the past find their own entertainment in abuse. So the Discord server was being abused more than it was being used for its intended purpose. And since it is not a source of revenue for me, but it added more work for me to do, and it was creating problems that it was thrust upon me by viewers complaining to me about what was going on, I had it shut down. I think it was 72 hours it existed before it was shut down. When we put a paywall up that stops all of that trouble, and that'll be about the only way we can do a Discord server in the future, will be as a members only benefit, in order to ensure the integrity and the experience will be a positive one for all participants. Yeah, that was a couple years ago we did that. And I also had a Facebook fan page where people could go for help. Once again, it was inundated with abusive people. And that was around, I don't know, 2 years I think it lasted. But again, it's just the little annoyances that just continue in perpetuity. They never go away. When they go away, they're replaced by somebody else who's never, exhibited that behavior. They're a little older. They're going through something in their life, and so no sooner than they realize, that either they've been banned or they're wasting their time, or maybe they even grow out of it, there's somebody new coming in. And so it just wore me down. It's like an erosion that just takes place over time. And after I've had enough of it, I said, well, this is free. It's supposed to be there as a benefit for the viewers. It's being abused. It's taking time out of my day that isn't benefiting me whatsoever. So for that was also shut down. Here, you can communicate with each other during my live feed in our chat room, where I hope you will become a community member, if not already. And always know that I encourage the community, to sort of function on their own without me providing it to you. In other words, if there's a friendship that you make here in the chat room, or multiple friendships, you can work out amongst yourself some way that you can communicate on your own time, your own way. You can start your Discord server and invite the members of other chats in this chat that you participate in to join your Discord server, and then you can deal with the aggravation. You probably get less of it, but I certainly would encourage you to do that if that's what you want. But asking me to do more work because what I'm giving you isn't enough, if there's no money in it for me and I'm already spread thin on my time, you can certainly understand my reluctance given the reception that it's received from a minority of people who are abusive, but enough of a minority that it shouldn't have existed. It had no justification. And I just don't have time for those games. They can go play their games somewhere else. I realize the collateral damage is to the vast majority of people that were utilizing it. However, that nobody was paying the price but me, and nobody was getting the benefit but you. So I just had enough of that. Now, obviously, this has downloaded long ago, and I'm going to show you what this looks like when we install it here. So I'll just click Open File, and yes, we're going to approve of that and allow that install. You have to click the box for the end user license agreement and click Install, and I can close the browser window. I don't need that open anymore. And now that I've done that, I can put my happy little face back up in the corner there. And let's take a look here at the chat. Scott Ruger in the chat says he's tried this utility on Windows 11 and it works. Good, I'm glad you have. I assumed that it would work, but I don't run Windows 11 myself, so I don't know. Now the install, when I installed this yesterday, when I was playing with it on my laptop, it looked like it froze up during the installation. And my advice to you is just be patient. For some reason, right about this point of the install, there's some hesitation. And especially if you have an older computer, that might take even longer. But it is a free utility. And I wouldn't be too demanding on a free utility. And then, of course, once it's installed, once we get past that hump of whatever this delay is, which also might be part of the reason it's in beta, then everything's fine after that. So not quite sure, even on a super fast computer, why it's hesitating about a third of the way through the install. But this is the second time I've installed it, and the second time it's just displayed that behavior, just so you know. And if you watch, you'll see it's moved past it. Now, let me get back to my full screen mode so I can see the utility here. Okay, yeah, so it says installation complete, launch now. Let's launch it. Of course, we have a desktop icon for it, and we have the PC Manager interface here. And this is mostly just an interface. All of these utilities are built into Windows 10. You can run them all separately. You do not need this interface, but it is convenient that it brings it all together. So here we have a health check, which we can run, and it makes some recommendations for things to clear out. Fine, we can proceed. We can go back. What's the next thing we can do here? Boost your PC's performance. Okay, we'll hit boost. You'll see the memory usage here. Might go down depending on how long your machine's been on and what you've been running. Storage management, we can click on that. There's a disk cleanup, manage large files, manage your apps, and storage sense, which of course I've demonstrated here in the past and is already configured on this machine to run automatically every month. We'll go back again. The next one we have is, we have process management. We can see what's running and we can end it. You can reach this in the task manager, hitting the startup tab. It's all the same stuff, just presented in a nice little, interface. Here's the items at startup apps. You can just click the little boxes for what you want to turn off, if you want to turn anything off. Again, in the task manager in the startup tab. It's all the same. And let's see, memory usage, temporary files, health check, storage management, process management, startup apps. There's a cleanup button and there's a security. So we hit cleanup. I got nothing. I hit security. What does that do? Windows Update, browser protection, pop-up management. So pop-up management, enable pop-up blocking. Know that some websites won't work correctly if you enable a pop-up manager. People always forget that, and they love not getting the pop-ups until eventually, could be the same day or a couple days later, typically, some website isn't working anymore. And they don't correlate that to turning off the pop-up management. So be aware of that. The browser protection. Block change by malicious apps. That's an interesting, I don't know what that does. I suppose we can turn it on. We can set our default browser apparently as well. That's pretty convenient, even though you can do that. You've always been able to do that in the control panel under the apps icon. And what's this other one? Windows Update. That just shows us we've got some updates without even having to go to Windows Update. That's pretty cool. That's a new one. Just a handy little utility. And again, I keep calling it a utility. It's a little deceitful. It's just an interface for the utilities that are already and always have been in your Windows 10 and Windows 11. And it's just put them all in one package. So that should have been there the whole time. I'm glad to see Microsoft finally doing this. It's safe. As far as, you don't see any registry cleanup there, because these days registry cleanup's a waste of time. You could clean your registry out of 10,000 entries, and you'll see no performance benefit whatsoever on a Windows 10 even a Windows 7 or Windows 8 computer. Those registry cleaners used to make a difference back in Windows, prior to Windows 7. However, we've moved on since then. Software has evolved quite a bit. Technology moves quickly. You've seen the advancement in Wi-Fi. You've seen the advancement in NVMe. You've seen the advancement in storage capacities. You can buy a 20 terabyte hard drive now. Well, don't you think these ideas or these concepts that you learned all those years ago about maintaining Windows no longer apply because we're not running those versions of Windows anymore? So get on board with the rest of us, please, and adapt and change the mentality and update the advice that you may be giving out to others that is out of date. Join us, won't you? We're living in the present. We'd love you here with us. So there's a method to my madness. I want to see you have a good, positive experience with your computer. And there are certain behaviors that I see all the time online and through multiple customers that end up causing them headaches and quite often money that were completely avoidable. They were completely self-inflicted. Some people, that's the only way they can learn, right? And if they haven't had the negative experience, they may be skeptical and just think that everybody else doesn't know what they're doing and you know something the rest of us don't. Not likely. What's more than likely happening is you just haven't yet experienced it. But if you continue that behavior, like shoplifting, you might shoplift and get away with it. And you might be doing it for years. And these people that get caught shoplifting, well, they're just simply not as good at shoplifting as you are. But what many people fail to realize is all the caught shoplifters, they have one thing in common. They were caught. The more you do something, the more likely it is that you're going to experience the downside of it. You're going to get caught. I don't know when. Some people could live 40 years of their life shoplifting, and of course, they have convinced themselves they are invincible. And when you get too comfortable, when you get too familiar, when you get too confident, that's likely when it's going to happen. So it's its own undoing. If you don't shoplift, you'll never get caught shoplifting. That's all I'm saying. And you might say, well, I will never get caught shoplifting. Okay, well, you believe that. Maybe you're right. You probably aren't, but I can guarantee you will not get caught shoplifting if you don't shoplift. I can guarantee that you will not have a system utility causing damage to your system if you don't run said system utilities. So the risk versus the benefit, is it worth it? If after running the system utility, your system was markedly faster or it solved a system crashing problem, totally worth it. But most people, in my experience, are running these utilities on systems that don't have any problems. They're trying to take something that's perfect, and they're trying to see if they can make it more perfect. That is a recipe for disaster. When you're never happy with what you have, when everything always has to be better, you're going to find out just how far you can push it before it snaps. And then, hopefully, you'll learn that everything, when pushed to its limits, will break. And maybe that's not a good idea if you're like most people and you get frustrated or it affects your mood, you're emotionally upset when the computer you spend so much time on is no longer functional and you did it to yourself. You created your own misery for no good reason. So I wouldn't tell you what to do, but I would advise you to really weigh the pros and the cons, the risks and the consequences, and understand that the only guarantee is you not using it. Otherwise, you're rolling the dice every time. And you know, the dice might be in your favor until they're not. If you don't roll the dice, it's a game you don't have to play. You can't lose a game you're not playing. Anyway, all right, I suppose you could forfeit. Maybe that's the best analogy I've made. But yeah, This is a pretty basic utility. Again, I'm going to keep kicking myself for calling it a utility. It's just an interface. It's pretty straightforward. I want to go to Windows Update just to check against this utility because it looked like one of the updates didn't apply. Oh, we have a couple here. We'll go ahead and do this. We'll do this. We'll let that run. And yeah, I'll be happy to take any questions you have here in the chat room. Let's see what's going on over here. Bob R mentions my Amazon links in the video notes below the video. Yes, if you buy anything from Amazon, anything at all, if you use one of the links in my video notes of any of my videos that take you to Amazon for a specific product, once it takes you to Amazon, you go into the Amazon search to buy the thing you were going to buy that has nothing to do with where my link, the product my link took you to. But the fact that my link took you to Amazon, any purchase you make on that Amazon visit, I will receive a small commission. And it's anonymous. I don't know who's making the purchase. It's only for Amazon in the USA. I get a list every month, well, daily, of what's been purchased, so I know how much commission I've earned, but I have no idea who purchased it or where in the USA they are, nor do I care. And it's a great way to anonymously support the channel while you're buying the things you were going to buy anyway at Amazon. Same price, same everything, just that Amazon will share a portion of their profit with the affiliate, which is what I would be in this instance, that brought you there. So I like to be as transparent as possible as how these videos are getting paid for. I don't want to become a big commercial maker for large companies like, let's face it, all the big tech channels that have 1 million+ subscribers essentially are paid commercial makers for the sponsors that regularly pay them to make product that the manufacturer, the sponsor, wants them to make to the standards the manufacturer demands, no differently than anybody making a commercial. It's the same process. I don't want to do that. If I'm making a commercial for something, it's because I truly believe in it. I think that it's a value. I think it would benefit you to have it, most of you. And if I can generate revenue for something I am promoting anyway, it's a win-win-win. It's a win for me. It's a win for the product manufacturer. It's a win for the viewers. Like RoboForm. I love RoboForm. If RoboForm said to me, we don't want to sponsor your show anymore, I'd be sad, but I'd still be using RoboForm and I'd still recommend it because as far as I'm concerned, it's the most underrated password manager of all time. I can't tell you how many times I open up a computer magazine that's doing a review of password managers and RoboForm isn't even in the list of competitors. Why? What's going on there? Makes no sense to me. And RoboForm in many cases is the oldest password manager, the one that's been around the longest. They're the one that everybody else is comparing against. And I think it's a gross injustice for the magazines and the online tech sites that are doing the reviews to leave it out. And I just can't figure out why they would do that. Not even so much as a mention. It's weird and unjust. So I want to do my part to correct that. Acronis is a great other software manufacturer that I utilize in my business and in my personal life. Once again, love to work with them. I'm going to use their product regardless. A new version of Acronis came out recently. We're going to bring Acronis back on here in the coming weeks, maybe in next month. We'll bring Begaden back on from Acronis, talk about the new features, and once again offer you guys a discount for that, probably for 30 days, I imagine. And these are exclusive discounts for my viewers only, and they're for a very limited time. I don't just take a sponsorship and say what's in it for me. I take a sponsorship and my first primary concern is what's in it for my viewers. And if they can't provide me a value to my viewers, that they're not, something special, like if they want to offer me the same thing they offer everybody else, I'm not interested. It's got to be something special. As a result, by its very nature, has to be temporary. We don't want to devalue the product. And there's been a couple of sponsors that I was interested in, products that I use, where I've reached out and said, I'd love to have you sponsor. And we're okay with everything as far as what the rate would be and what the product is. But some companies are like, this is the discount we offer in our sponsorships. It never changes. I say, well, that's too bad. That's too bad. You underestimate the value of this community. If you're not going to do anything for us special, why should my viewers just go get it anywhere at that price? What's the benefit of being a member of the community here if we're just going to do the same thing everybody else is doing, making the same offers everybody else is offering? I don't want to do that. And we go separate ways. And those companies, I don't hold any ill will to them. I just feel terrible that they don't get, some of these companies, they don't understand what they're missing. They're rigid in their policies. It's like policies over profit. Something wrong. So I utilize their product. I just don't talk about it. There's a lot of products I use that I don't talk about here online because I don't want to give them the free advertising, and I don't want to encourage you to pay full price for it. Although sometimes I'll mention products from time to time that no sponsorship is involved in. In fact, most of the time, no sponsorship is involved in it. And it may be on sale or something, and I'll draw your attention to it. When I don't make, in those instances, I don't make any commissions or anything. In those instances, those companies don't even know I exist. They're not aware that I've made the video or the announcement. So clearly, this channel is very different from the majority of the large tech channels in that, they're all about making ads. And I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me. They're welcome to do that. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just not what my intention is. It's not why I'm here. So I want you to understand what to expect from this channel if you're new here and why. Going back to the chat, let's see if I've missed any other questions here. William Sean wants to know, is it worth buying a 6800 XT card? I have a 6650 XT card. I don't know what anything is worth to you, William. I have no idea what something is worth to you. Unfortunately, the best person that can answer that question is you. So how you're using it, what you're using it for, how much benefit for the price, if that's a value to you or not. There's no right or wrong answer here. It's going to vary from individual to individual. One man's trash, as they say, is another man's treasure. When we talk about worth or value, I see people buying stuff and spending all this money for it, and I shake my head and think, what a complete waste of money. And they just look at me like, you don't get it. Non-fungible tokens, for example. You're buying NFTs? Someone recently bought an old pair of Levi's found in a mine shaft, I think in New Mexico, went at auction for $87,000. Why? Hey man, it's their money. They obviously saw value in that. I don't know. When we ask about what something is worth, anything at all, you go to the restaurant, do you think the steak or the chicken is worth the price? Only you can answer questions related to value. Value is entirely a unique and individual perception. It is subjective, and whatever answer is right for you is right for you. It's not necessarily right for anybody else on the planet. New tech is always coming out. So, you've got to weigh whether or not it's worth it to wait till the next generation of cards. And then the previous generation gets cheaper. or if you want to sacrifice that to get what you can get today at whatever it's going to cost, you know, nobody can answer that but you. But you can certainly research online, read reviews. And if there's a particular game or app that you use that you think would benefit from the graphics card, there are forums where people are strictly talking about that particular app or game. And you can ask that community if it'd be worth it in the sense of that usage scenario, and get those opinions from people that would definitely know the difference. So just something to bear in mind. Those are just questions that I see a lot, as though there's one answer. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we have a freedom of choice in the PC world so that we can custom design our computers to meet our needs, our budget. And rarely do you see two home-built computers that are identical. It's wonderful, I think. Otherwise, you're more or less entering the world of Apple if you want everything to be the same and all answers to be, you know, is this worth it? Apple's going to say yes, right? And you're going to have everything the same as everybody else and pay good money for it. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's ideal for people who don't know how to make the decisions. They don't know the value. So Apple decides that for you, and they decide it for everybody else, and you can have what everybody else is having. It's I'm not a fan of that myself, but I understand why that has appeal to some people. I see Catherine Anna Hauserman joins us. Welcome in, Catherine. Patrick wants to know, is it normal for your CPU to get real hot during a virus or malware scan? Patrick, I don't know what software you're using to scan. I don't know what processor you have, what cooler you have, or what you define as real hot. So perhaps the question should be, when I'm running name of antivirus on my name and model of processor, for it to reach this temperature, that's a question I can answer. But there's too much assuming. It'd be like if I said, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? What are you talking about, Carrie? What is this and what is that? You have to define those things before we can conclude what we think of them. So bear that in mind. The more detailed your question is, the more detailed my answer potentially can be, or answers that you receive also from other viewers. Mike Podukowitz says he bought RoboForm last year. He got the 5-year subscription. It was a great deal, thanks to Carrie. He loves RoboForm. He wonders how he ever lived without it, right? Yeah, I'm miserable when I'm on a different computer that doesn't have RoboForm on it and I've got to log in to like Amazon. My passwords are so convoluted. Thanks to RoboForm, I don't have to remember them. So I get a little spoiled with that, and I have to bring up my phone and pull up the RoboForm app on my phone so I can look at the password and then type it in by hand on a different device. You can also log in to roboform.com. You can sign in there and without installing the software, have it put the passwords in for you automatically. I'm just too lazy. I'm just more straightforward, you know, but I know it's an option for me. Looking back at other questions. Nick Poverman said, I just tried the utility. I also got that SanDisk flash drive. Thanks for the info. That's a great deal, Nick. I'm telling you. The 1 terabyte SanDisk drives, they're fast, extremely portable, and I have not had one fail on me yet. Knock on wood, right? Patrick said he's got an he's got an Intel 9700K running a Scythe Ninja 5, running Windows Defender. You notice the fans got loud. The temps got up to 90, but that's the only time any fans got loud. Patrick, I would suggest it's running normally. I don't think 90 is too hot. It's perfectly fine. It's designed to go up to 100. So if you're not getting to 99 or 98, I wouldn't be worried about it. The 9700K any of those high-end flagship processors, they run hotter. So it's normal usage. Make sure, of course, that you've got the fins of the radiator of the heatsink clear of any debris or dust blockages, and ensure that your application of thermal compound isn't too much or too little. I wouldn't worry about it. So if it's not causing a problem, I wouldn't encourage you to try and fix something that isn't broken. I would consider that normal operational use, me personally. It's not hurting anything, and it's temporary. Rick Lakes joins us in the chat room. He says, hello. Hey, Rick, good to see you as always. And Andy Kane, Stealth Mode. Ricky Bees joins us, and so does Sarge Tech. Paul1961. Hello to Michael Brown. And Surfing the Net Computer Repair joins us, as does Chris Johnson. Martin Wolferts. Glenn's Music, Sean Boland. Right on. Good to see you guys here in the chat. I hope everybody's doing well today. Here in Phoenix, we're finally getting cooler weather, at least in the evenings. I can open the doors and let the air blow through, and it's getting down into the 50s at night. Oh, thank you. Oh, I wish it would be like this all year round. Andy says, I had another laptop and opened it up in class and cleaned the fan out and replaced the thermal paste. And it went from 80 degrees Celsius, it dropped to 38 degrees Celsius. So again, depending on, was that the normal temp? Was it just running at 80 all the time? Or was that sort of a peak temp that occurred during a heavy resource usage scenario? Yeah, 80, from 80 to 38, the thermal compound and cleaning out dust don't normally make that kind of a difference. So I would be curious how accurate the test was, that whatever brought that machine to 80, if that test was recreated accurately, I can't imagine 80 being the standard normal idle temperature. That definitely sounds wrong. GL Thunder says, I wish I lived in Phoenix. It was about 116 degrees. Oh, when I lived in Phoenix, boy, I need to get glasses. I have glasses. When I lived in Phoenix, it was about 116 degrees Fahrenheit every day. In Arizona, here in Phoenix, every summer we get over 100 consecutive days in a row of temperatures that are 100 degrees Fahrenheit or above. Minimum 100 consecutive days. It's typically a lot more than that, but that's every year. It is what it is. I'm done with the heat. Bring me the cold. Put me somewhere cold. Please, please, please. I need to go somewhere cold. Hopefully that'll happen before too long. We'll see. Michael Dane joins us here in the chat. Michael says, greetings, Carrie. I just gave away computer number 104 to a family that needed one. That is awesome, Michael. Absolutely amazing. Michael's given away a number of refurbished machines to members of his community in need, and it is a wonderful example of the type of people we have here in our community and how thoughtful they are, how kind they are, and Michael's an extreme example of that generosity, and certainly an inspiration to me to do more, to do better. Kelly Stewart says, hey, Carrie, you were talking about temperature outside. It was 66 degrees Fahrenheit today and freeze advisory for tonight. Yeah, I think Kelly's in Northern California, up around like Sacramento or something, if I recall. So, yeah, of course, go further north, you can expect those temperatures to come down. That actually sounds quite pleasant, Kelly. Arnold Schmidt says, Carrie, you can come up here to Alberta, Canada, where it's 5 degrees Celsius. Sounds wonderful. I would love it. And Mortant 1210 says, let's give a thumbs up on the video for Carrie. Hey, it's cool if you do that. I appreciate it. Not required. Linda Hudson says hello. Welcome in. Linda, always good to see you. And Craig Lilly says it's 43 degrees Fahrenheit here in Springfield, Missouri. Yeah, I was just in Springfield, Missouri. Drove through it anyway. Okay. Glenn's Music says, guess who just turned 49? Well, happy birthday to you, Glenn's Music, and enjoy your last year of being in your 40s. John Williams says it's 48 degrees Fahrenheit in Madison, Wisconsin today. Oh, man, if it was 48, I'd have the windows open. It sounds lovely. And Don Nielsen says Dan says it's 56 degrees Fahrenheit in Malmö, Sweden. Michael Dane says 24 degrees Fahrenheit in Ohio and 24 degrees overnight last night there, Fahrenheit. Whew, that's a little chilly. When you get down below 32, it starts to get chilly. I'm surprised you're getting temperatures that cold this early, but maybe that's normal for you guys. All right, what else was I going to talk about today? So anyway, that's the utility there. Let me go back to this computer. I've been ignoring it. We'll go ahead and hit restart now. We'll let that restart. You know, I've been trying to figure out a solution where I can have multiple screens showing me, like my OBS screen and my YouTube chat window, and I really don't have room for a second monitor. So I haven't figured this out yet, but I did see Samsung's got this new monitor called the Samsung Arc. It's a 55-inch curved screen, which is way too big for what I need. But the cool thing about it is you can rotate it 90 degrees, and basically it has a breakout box, and you can plug in 4 HDMI inputs to it. And you can essentially split that screen, like for example, into thirds, where each screen is like a 27-inch monitor running independently off each HDMI. And you can adjust, which screen you want to be on the top, which one you want in the middle, which one you want on the bottom. It's called, I think, cockpit mode. It's a $3,000 monitor. It's a gaming monitor. And I looked at that and I went, wow, that would solve my issue. I could have multiple screens on one screen where there's no overlapping, like with Windows. But I'm sure I can solve the problem much cheaper than that. I just really need to figure out a solution for this, because it makes what I do a little bit more difficult, because I'm either looking at the chat room or I'm looking at OBS. I can't really look at both at the same time. So while I'm full screen, like when the screen pops up here, when I go full screen over here, I can't see you guys anymore. If I don't go full screen, the screen is too small and too far away for me to see it. Whereas you guys are going to see it full screen, right? With me in the corner. When I go full screen, I don't see me in the corner and I forget I'm there. And when sometimes something opens in that top right corner, I don't realize you're not seeing it, and nor am I seeing the chat if you're telling me you can't see it, because you're back behind the full screen window. So I'm still trying to solve that particular issue, but check this monitor out. Let's go over to Amazon and let's type in Samsung ARC. Oh, I guess I have to click here first. Why is it not clicking? What am I missing? Something, here we go. No, it's not working? Hold on a minute. What have I done? Click Amazon. That's typing, good. There we go, Samsung Arc. Seems like it just kind of froze for some reason. Huh, that's different. I wonder if the Windows Update didn't like me. Let me hit Control-Alt-Delete, go to the Task Manager. It's not letting me click on that either. Quite interesting. Well, in that case, I will just hit Reset. I don't know what the heck it's doing. I hope that system utility I ran didn't cause these problems. I don't think it did because, again, they're all built-in Microsoft Windows utilities, but I don't know what that's about. We're just going to reboot it and see if that self-corrects. It's very strange. Try this again. Go back to Amazon. Samsung Arc 55. Gotta put space. There it is. The Odyssey Arc. This thing is a monster. This is sort of the luxury gaming monitor. So if you were into gaming, you had a lot of investment in it. This is a 4K, 165 hertz, 1 millisecond LED curved screen with 4 speakers. It's got a speaker in each corner. HDR10 compatible, and it's got backlighting behind it that can reflect off the wall, that automatically selects like the main colors of whatever game you're playing and reflects that from the rear lighting to the back wall. It's got these 2 breakout boxes down here at the bottom. You'll see there's this dial. So instead of pushing buttons on the monitor through the menuing system, you have this wireless dial, which is also got a little solar panel on it. So you shouldn't have to worry about having to charge it up. And then it's got the breakout box that you can move away and, you know, hide your cables away from the monitor. The majority of cables anyway. That's where your inputs are going to go. And there's the Samsung video here. Just fast forward a little bit. Yeah, you can even, you know, if the screen's too big for you, you can just have one screen shrunk down to the middle of the monitor to the size you prefer. And then that's the cockpit mode where he's got 3 different inputs going on at the same time. And each input acts as its own monitor, so there's no overlapping that can occur by mistake. You're not going to drag one window over the other one. And of course, you'll need 3 different input sources to accomplish that, which could be different outputs on a video card or 3 different computers, for example. So it's pretty darn wicked. I just wish it wasn't so big. If it was around 40 inches, I think that would be ideal. However, of course, when we go sideways like that, it might be the text might be too small for me to read the chat. You can play like TikTok videos, and because it takes sort of the format of a cell phone, you could just sit there and scroll through videos on a 55-inch screen that are perfectly formatted in the aspect ratio of the screen. That's pretty wicked stuff. Now, I'm not buying it, but I'm allowed to drool over it, and we can see where things are going, and I'm looking forward as the technology improves and becomes cheaper and competitors join in with their own products. That is definitely a solution for me. So that's a good sign of things yet to come. Josiah Guernsey became a member for 3 months. Right on. Well, thank you, Josiah. Catherine says you can start by wearing glasses. So the problem with the glasses is when we're talking about reading, right? That's primarily when I need the glasses. It's presbyopia. It occurs to people usually from your mid-40s on up. Most people are affected by it, where trying to see things close up, but words, not things. I can see this flash drive just fine, and I can read what's on it just fine. However, when I'm reading something I'm not familiar with or the font is too small, I need to magnify it. Now, if you put something that's magnifying on your face and you look at distance, everything's distorted and far worse. So in this case, the glasses don't fix the problem. My distance vision is fine. In fact, I'm probably able to read the screen that's 15, 12 feet away from me better than most people. My distance vision is no problem. However, the font size and the distance do make it a challenge. That it's not a glasses problem. It's simply a screen size distance related issue combined with the font. That, if I make the font bigger, then there's less information on the screen than I can see at one time. And so it's a sacrifice that I make. I've adjusted it to where I prefer it, but I do have people that come over and wonder how I can read that from so far away. And so obviously it's a little bit of a struggle, and I do sometimes read it incorrectly, but most of the time I think I'm pretty darn, that I'm reading it pretty darn accurately. Sometimes I'm not paying enough attention and I'm seeing the word, but I'm not saying that word. Somehow my mind is thinking something else, and so something else comes out, and that's not a vision problem. But in any event, welcome to getting older. Bob wants to know if I tried progressive lenses. Well, again, there wouldn't be any benefit for progressive lenses for me. I have tried them. I've tried having a progressive lens that had sort of distance at the top, which needs zero correction, computer glasses in the middle, and then magnification at the bottom. And for somebody who's never worn glasses before, I cannot recommend progressives. They are very uncomfortable and awkward. Things like driving in the car, I want to look to change the radio station, so I'm looking down through the glasses, and everything's distorted, and I can't, it's not matching what I'm expecting to see. So you have to retrain yourself how to adjust your neck or your head so that your eyes aren't looking too far down the lens or too far up on the lens. That drove me bonkers. So just the reading glasses is all I need for now, and we'll see how things progress in the future. But no, I appreciate the suggestion. It's been there, done that, not for me. Glenn's Music says he wishes he could get a prescription computer screen instead. Xrod666 just became a member here on the channel for 6 months. He says, I'm glad to be a part of this community. Well, we're glad as well that you're a part of the community, and thank you for supporting the channel by joining our tech club. It's $9.99 a month, and it's just a way of showing support for the channel that will have benefits, like you'll get to see videos earlier. There'll be members only videos that will never be released publicly. I keep talking about what I'm going to do. However, I've been so backed up in work. What's new, right? I have not been able to fully exploit all the benefits for the members of the channel, but they're coming. And I appreciate the support, so that enables me to keep moving forward at a faster pace. Sarge Tech says, at the young age of 63, I wear trifocals. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Morton said he's been a member for 5 months and 14 days. Well, thank you so much, Morton. So that means you jumped in right when I started this, and I appreciate that very much. I think I can go full screen again here on the camera one. I think we're done over here. I guess I can check Windows Update one more time, because there was an optional update if I recall. Let's check that one more time. Check for updates. Huh, okay, well, we'll let that grab whatever that is. And, oh, it's already done. Good. Close that, shut this down. Yeah, I don't know what those earlier browser freeze-ups were about, but it seems to be fine now, so very strange. And could be related to running that system utilities that didn't need to be run, though in that particular case, because there's no, I wasn't cleaning up any files in the sense that any files would have been temp files or cache files, which obviously will have no impact on system performance with regards to causing lockups or things like that. It can improve system performance slightly in response times. If it's like a huge cache from your browser, it can certainly improve the response time of the browser if you've never cleared it out. But I meant to say it wouldn't cause reliability concerns. So nothing we've done in that little utility or that interface should be cause for a concern. It's very safe to use, but I don't have an explanation to why that happened. Entirely possible, though not likely. I don't know, but as long as it works and it's not a repetitive problem, I'm not too worried about it. Sometimes computers just do that. That's why we always say, have you tried turning it off and on again? Whenever you experience a problem, do that first. A lot of times those problems just go away as mysteriously as they appeared, and they never come back again the same or at all. It happens. Let me see what I want to just check my own video notes to make sure I've covered everything I wanted to cover. Bob R., I missed your contribution in Super Chat. Bob R. contributed $10. He says, it's nice to be in a live chat. It feels like home. I hope so. Feels like home having you here. Thank you for the contribution. And I missed Captain Blinsky, also contributed $10 via Super Chat in the live chat. So thank you, Captain Blinsky and Bob R., for continuing to support the channel. We're glad you're here. Now let me look at my video notes. I just want to verify if I've missed anything. I got to pull up my own YouTube channel so I can see my own video notes. So yes, the RoboForm 60% off deal that I opened the show with, new RoboForm users only, and that's good from now, today, until the end of the year. Then we've got a link for the Microsoft PC Manager that we just did. The articles, if you want more information on the multiple RTX 4090 GPU owners that report melting power cables, and AMD's response, it's not using the ATX 3.0 power rails for the new Radeon cards. The link to Amazon for the SanDisk 1 terabyte Extreme Flash Drive, that's on sale today. And the Intel 660p M.2 NVMe drive 1 terabyte, $69.99 at Amazon. Still, it's that cheap. I can't believe it. I'm sure they're trying to blow out that inventory. Below that, of course, are all the links for Windows and Microsoft Office product keys. These are legitimate and legal product keys. Some people confuse Microsoft's terms of service with laws. So Microsoft terms of service want their products only sold through authorized resellers, or they won't support them. Hence the gray market. The gray market is a gray area, and it can save you a lot of money because you're still getting the same product. You're getting an active, a valid product key, and Microsoft may not have intended that product key to be used in the market you live in, but what Microsoft wants versus what's legal or illegal, those are two different things. So I was very concerned about using these gray market keys for my business clients. I was concerned that if they were to get a software audit, that I would be held accountable if they failed that audit. However, at that time, it wasn't worth me investigating, and nobody presented me any information that quelched my concerns. So I just avoided it. It's not worth risking my business for it. But later on, some changes happened within the marketplace itself, within the relationship with Microsoft that I had, that risk became minimized and worthy of taking a second look at because the circumstances changed. The marketplace itself changed. Microsoft changed. Their own policies changed in regards to how they were handling this. So now Microsoft policy seems to just be to ignore it. Anytime I try to reach out to Microsoft, I'm just not getting any answers. I'm just being ignored. So the previous contacts I had at Microsoft started ignoring me. Once they started ignoring me, that's when I decided now it's time. There's got to be a reason why I used to get responses and I'm no longer getting responses. And it's likely because they don't want to confirm or deny. They'd likely just keep their mouth shut and pretend like they never saw it. I mean, I don't have any choice but to use my imagination since they're not responding. So I'm going to fill in the gap with my imagination. So I've done some research on these gray market keys, and in fact, they are 100% legal. And if my businesses get audited, my clients rather get audited, I am 100% certain there is no concern over the licensing for the types of clients I have. And I mention that because if, for example, you were to use a student license or a home user license because it was cheaper in a for-profit business, that can get you in trouble because it's a misappropriation use of the license. In this case, it's not a misappropriation. It's simply sourced elsewhere. And I don't want to convince you, right? I'm just telling you what it required for me to be convinced, for me to see this in a way that I knew 100% would not jeopardize my business or jeopardize my clientele and then sour my reputation over saving a few dollars. That research took a long time and it required a lot of investigation. And I can tell you that anybody who says otherwise will not be able to prove it. So they're just using their imagination. So I want you to be aware that at the end of the day, your decision is your decision, of course, but these product keys are guaranteed to activate. At least once anyway, right? And once it's activated, like Windows, it stays activated on that motherboard. Even upon a reinstall, you don't even have to enter the product key as long as you make sure you're installing the right version of Windows 10, like Home versus Pro. So as long as you're installing the same version, you could do a nuke and pave or reinstall. Once you go to Windows Update, the product key will be reassigned back to you and reactivated. You don't have to do anything. With regards to Microsoft Office, they typically activate once and they'll stay activated. But if you ever have to do a complete wipe and reinstall, it may not activate again, and the software key supplier won't guarantee that it'll activate later. So ideally, once you get your software activated, you would make an image backup so you wouldn't have to deal with it, or rest your mind in that even if you had to buy the key 2 or 3 times, you're only at 10% of the cost of the retail key that Microsoft wants to get out of it. You can go to Microsoft.com and look at the price for Microsoft Office. It's about $400, $500. So you could buy a product key for Office 10 times before you reach the price of that one key, and you're still ahead of the game in such a scenario. But I'm also not saying it won't reactivate. I am simply stating that VIP CDK deals aren't guaranteeing a future reactivation, only that it will activate and it will stay activated. It's only when you try to move it somewhere else or you completely wipe and reinstall your software on your computer that that potential exists. For some people, it'll reactivate, and for others, it won't. For those of you who don't, buy another one. You're still not even at, maybe 20% of the cost of a retail license. So you could purchase it numerous times. You're still ahead of the game. However, I just want to set your expectations. I don't want you to, be demanding as though you bought a $500 license. Obviously, you are making a bit of a sacrifice in the sense of that support, there's nobody to call to help you. But you're saving a ton of money because you're doing it yourself. And you're getting a gray market key. If you're not okay with that, don't buy it. But the key will work. When you buy it, whether it's Windows 10, Windows 11, Office 2016, Office 2019, Office 2021, that key works. It does activate, and it stays activated. So if it doesn't, if you run into any problems, you just reach out to their support at VIP CDK Deals, and they'll make it right. If they don't make it right, you email me. What other YouTube content creator makes that kind of guarantee for the stuff they're shilling for? I'm not aware of a single one. That's how confident I am. You're not absorbing any risk here. It will work, or you'll get a refund. That's all there is. So many people in the chat, I'm sure, can attest to their experience. They're not affiliated with me. I don't know who many of you are in real life, and your experience is yours. You would have no reason to lie. So if you're skeptical, the only way you're really going to know for sure is to try it. And then you'll know, one way or the other. And like I said, if it turns out that a worst case scenario, you get a key that doesn't work, their support doesn't help you. By the way, that's only happened maybe 3 times in the last year where I had to step in. It's very uncommon. And I'm sure we've sold thousands of product keys over the last year. So it's important for me to keep that deal at VIP CDK deals, because I don't want you guys hoarding on the keys with the idea that, well, I'll need it at some point in the future. It may not work in the future, and after 30 days of buying any product, don't expect much in the way of customer support. Like, you go buy a television at Best Buy last month and you stuck it in your garage, you got busy, and then 45 days later, you open up the box and the screen is cracked and you want to take it back to Best Buy with your receipt, ain't taking it back. It's 30 days. And no matter what you say, well, I only opened it yesterday. Sure you did, whatever, it doesn't matter. Policy is the same. So, you're not going to go buy a bunch of bananas at the grocery store, put them on your counter, and then 30 days later take them back to the store going, these are bad. I mean, maybe a store might give you a free bunch of bananas just because you're a lunatic and get you out of the store. But if it's something where there could be fraud, where there's scam activity, it's very suspicious that somebody would exhibit that behavior. So I'm trying to keep this deal going with VIP CDK deals indefinitely, so that you know that deal's always there waiting for you when that day comes that you need a software key. So, and specifically Windows or Microsoft Office. As far as I know, Office 2016 is the last version of Office that you don't have to create a Microsoft account for to activate. So I don't want to create a Microsoft account. So I've been installing Office 2016. Both Office 2016 and Office 2019 expire the same day Windows 10 support ends, which is October 14th of 2025. Office 2021 is good for an additional year. You only get one more year. So when you consider the price differential on those, I don't think it's worth it. That's my opinion. And then, of course, you could always buy Office 365 and have a subscription. Microsoft would like that very much. Those are not offered. I don't believe those are offered at VIP CDK deals. But whether or not you need to create a Microsoft account, the key still works. It's just I don't want to go through it. Nor can I. If I'm setting up a computer for a customer, I can't sign into my account on Microsoft to activate their copy of Office. And so I'm trying to make it painless for my customers that when they receive a computer from me, they don't have to go through all that. It's already done, and all they have to do is plug it in and enjoy it. Just as you saw me put all the updates on this machine, and the activation for Windows is already done. So when the recipient gets this computer, whatever updates occurred between the time I shipped it and the time they received it, if any, would need to be done. Other than that, those updates will come in automatically on their own anyway. They just plug it in, plug in a keyboard, plug in a mouse, plug in a monitor, plug in some speakers, plug in the power cable, turn it on, and you just start to use it. There's no bloatware to clean off. There's no hours and hours of updates you have to do like a store-bought pre-build. It's already done. And that's just a service I offer my clients that I could not do if I had to sign into my Microsoft account in order to accomplish those tasks. So that's why I'm so opposed to it, is it's just impossible. It's just not an option for me. And my attraction to Office 2016 is it's the cheapest, and it's a perpetual license, and you can activate it without a Microsoft account. You used to be able to activate Office 2019 without a Microsoft account, but so far as I can tell, Microsoft has changed that, and doesn't seem to be any way around it that I've figured out yet. If I figure out a way, I'll let you know. So once again, let me go back over to the chat. Freedom Will Prevail says, I bought a key from VIP CDK Deals, got the key within a minute, still works after installing a new solid state drive and Windows 10 fresh install. Yeah, unless you change the motherboard out. Otherwise, the key should always just automatically reassign and activate. And you got to use, well, you don't have to, but if you want to save 30% on the price that VIP CDK Deals is offering Windows or Office for, use the coupon code CAREY, C-A-R-E-Y, and I recommend you check out via PayPal. If you're going to use a credit card, your credit card company is likely going to think that you making a purchase in Hong Kong is suspicious and probably will need to confirm that this is not fraudulent activity. PayPal, on the other hand, deals with like cross-country transactions. That's very routine for them. It's a much smoother process using PayPal. But they do take credit cards. Just be prepared that you're going to most likely get that charge declined. And you'll have to talk to the credit card company and say, hey, this is me, this is legit. It's going to postpone you getting your key. So just be aware of that. There's nothing suspicious about the keys themselves. It's that the credit card company says, you don't normally make purchases in Hong Kong. So this looks like somebody stole your credit card, and you need to call them and let them know that it is you for them to then authorize the transaction. And then you have to probably go through and try it again. Once the transaction's declined, you'll have to make another transaction. They can't go back and approve it once it's been declined. You have to do it again. Okay, let's see, what else do we have in the chat? Ajan Guy says, thanks for the key info, Carrie. I have a few of them. Yeah, as do I. They're fantastic. If I sound like I'm a salesman for it, it's because I'm enthusiastic and I have a very good experience with it, and I want to share that with you. For those interested, I don't want to twist your arm. If you don't want it, don't buy it. If you're suspicious and you think it's fishy, don't buy it. Bob R. wants to know, does a UPS have surge protection? Most of them do, but you'd have to look at the specific UPS and read the either read the spec sheet on it or read the manual on it. In most cases, yes. It would be pretty unusual for a UPS not to have surge protection, but there's some pretty shady product out there. But if you're sticking with a name brand like APC or CyberPower, yeah, they're going to have surge protection. If you're going with some no-name brand, something cheap, I wouldn't. Regardless, I wouldn't do it. I also wouldn't buy the cheapest life vest if I was going out on a boat. I wouldn't look for the least expensive life vest. I will spend a few extra dollars. I think my life is worth that. Certain things involving security and protection should not be done on the cheap if you are sincere about the quality of or reliability of that security or protection. And certainly anything for free, I hope you don't expect much. It's perhaps better than nothing. Zvi Manor said, did you notice that the Microsoft optimization utility started by default after restart? I didn't notice it, but it's easy to turn that off. It's very minor. I don't think it's tricky or bad that it's doing that. On the other hand, I don't think you should be running it that often that you should need it every single session, but it's not a big deal to flip that off. Ricky B says he's a strong believer in you get what you pay for when it comes to merchandise. Well, especially when it comes to security or peace of mind. You know, when you're sticking with those name brand products, you know they've got your back, right? You know likely you won't have any issue with the product because they have a reputation, first of all. They're not new to the game. And if there is a problem, you can actually reach them. Whereas if you're buying some of this really, really inexpensive stuff that's being sold by companies you never heard of, typically out of China. They're almost impossible to reach for any support. And the cost of sending something to China is profoundly expensive. It's super cheap for them to send stuff to us. But have you ever tried to ship anything to China? Try it sometime. It'll often cost more to ship what you're trying to ship back than whatever the item is you're shipping, and far cheaper to just buy another one. So set your expectations. This is sort of the theme for today's show, is making sure you have realistic expectations for how much you're investing. Obviously, when you're getting something for free or at very low cost, you should lower those expectations down versus paying top dollar for something. If, for example, I buy a used car as is, it is what it is, right? I don't have any recourse if something isn't working, or I agreed to buy it as is. I got it cheaper that way, and as a result, if it turns out it's got a problem I didn't realize, it's my problem now. There's no recourse. If, on the other hand, I buy a brand new top-of-the-line Mercedes and it has a problem, Mercedes is going to fix it. They're going to fix it for free, and they're going to give me a loaner car, and they're going to take care of me because I'm already upset I had to take time out of my day to take it back to the dealer. And if Mercedes doesn't satisfy me, I won't buy another Mercedes. I'll take my business to BMW or Audi. I'll take it to another manufacturer. They're going to lose a lot of money. They don't want to lose a customer. That's a lot of money from one customer. But if you're buying something cheap, they don't care if they lose a customer. Who cares? How much of a loss is it for them? So you have to understand that you don't hold much value to companies that are selling you stuff cheap. There's nothing for them to lose. There's so little profit on whatever they're selling you, they don't care. So, of course, you can set your expectations according to how much you're paying. The more you pay, the more realistic it is for you to have expectations of complete customer satisfaction. But if what you're doing is sourcing stuff for cheap off of eBay from unknown sellers, and you have a bad experience, well, too bad. Too bad. And you can get as upset as you want to, but you did that to yourself, and it was unrealistic for you to think you were going to have the same experience. You decided to roll the dice. It'd be like being upset that you go to Las Vegas and you lost all your money. Hey, you made that decision. You knew that was a potential outcome. It's unrealistic to have expected that you were going to walk out doubling your money. You could, it's possible, but it's not guaranteed. Nor is your participation required. You don't have to go and gamble. That's a choice you make of your own free will, and it may have a positive ending, it may have a negative ending, it may just break even, but you accept that when you engage in that activity. That's all I'm saying. You know, people will be a lot happier if they set their expectations in line with their investments. All right. Final questions. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap up today's video. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover today. We'll be at about 2 hours, I think, for today's video. So if you do have questions for me, this is your last chance to ask. Sometimes people email, they send me messages or they email me. I don't know who they are. I'm not your personal tech support unless you're my customer, but I will answer your questions for free during live videos. So if you want to ask a technical question and you want an answer for free, I offer that during live videos. If you reach out to me personally and you're not my customer, you probably aren't going to get an answer, or the answer you're going to get is simply, I don't know. Because I don't have time. I just can't do that. But I do encourage you to ask your questions during the live feeds. Or if you want me to be your technician, there's a price for that, and we can negotiate that, and you can be a customer and expect that service. All right, so one more time, I'm going to look here in the chat for any final questions. Arnold says, Kerry, did you set up the cameras you got for your house? How's it working out? I haven't had any time to do that yet. So at this point, I'm trying to get some machines out. That's my priority. And I'm just squeaking by with what I have for right now, and we'll revisit that in the future. I'll keep you up to date on that as that progresses. Kelly Stewart wants me to check my phone. You know what? I left my phone in the other room. I knew I was going to do that. All right, Kelly, let me step off camera here for a second. I put my phone on the charger and then I forgot about it. So the good news is, for me, my phone's at 100% charge. I only wanted it on there for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to forget that, Carrie. And I did. I forgot that I told myself I'm going to forget it. Let's see. Avery sent a question. He wants to know, can flashing a BIOS get an older computer to update to Windows 11? If the computer doesn't have the hardware requirement, flashing a BIOS doesn't give you a new processor. However, if you have a processor that meets the requirements of Windows 11, and it's simply a BIOS update that enables the TPM by default, that could be the difference. But in most cases, the answer is no. In most cases, there is not a software solution, and BIOS is basically a software. It's a firmware, it's software. Anyway, the whole point of it is your processor has to be compatible, not your motherboard. Has nothing to do with your motherboard, has nothing to do with your storage, your power supply, your case, your graphics card, your network card. None of that has to do with Windows 11 compatibility. Only one thing, your processor. That's it. If your processor is not supported by Windows 11, it's not supported by Windows 11 unless you change your processor. So, what else? Oh, Giadarne contributes $5. Thank you, Giadarne. And Avery submitted a $5 Amazon gift card. Thank you, Avery. Kelly Stewart contributed a $50 Amazon gift card. Right on. Well, thank you, Kelly and Avery and Giadarne. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you supporting the channel and, of course, being a part of this wonderful, wonderful community. Daniel Kudajar with a $10 Australian contribution. He says, I'm getting a 13th generation Intel i7. Does it matter practically if I get a Z690 motherboard versus a Z790? Well, that's up to you. You can run a 13th gen board, you can run a 13th gen CPU on the 12th gen board. The Z690, for example, was what was required to run a 12th generation processor. Now those Z690s may run DDR4 or DDR5 and will only have PCIe Gen 4. The Z790, on the other hand, will give you a PCIe Gen 5, which there's no solid state drives to buy yet that will run at Gen 5, but they're coming, and you won't get, what was the other thing I was talking about? Gen 5. Oh, and all the 700 series boards will require DDR5, which is pretty much twice the price of DDR4, but not twice the performance benefit. And so unless you're getting a top of the line like 13900K, there's not a whole lot of difference in performance at that DDR5 level. So if you want to run a 13th gen, but you don't want to spend the money on the DDR5, and you don't care about PCIe Gen 5 compatibility, definitely save money and put that on a 600 series board. Your processor is still going to be faster than the 12th gen. You just won't be able to utilize the absolute benefit of the performance that chip is capable of unless you're at PCIe Gen 5 with DDR5 RAM. But you may not be using your computer in such a way that you would notice that anyway. So, if you're definitely looking at anything under the flagship 13th gen, Like if you're looking at an i5, I wouldn't hesitate to slap an i5 on a 690 series board or any 600 series board that was socket 1700 and DDR4. When DDR5 becomes more competitively priced to DDR4, or even if it's a few dollars more, because it's a few dollars more faster. It's not twice as fast, it's not worth twice the price. So yeah, you're fine with that. In fact, I would recommend it. Avery says, thank you, Carrie. Well, thank you, Avery, once again. Computer Lens says, Carrie, can a person still get the Corsair 200R cases? So Corsair gets them in stock from time to time. Over the years, I can't count the number of times people have told me Corsair has discontinued that case. They've claimed they were told that from Corsair employees, and if that's true, that just goes to show you how poorly trained those employees were. The case is still offered on the website. If you go to Corsair.com and search for the 200R, you can ask to be notified when they're back in stock. When that happens, they usually sell out relatively quickly. I have let you know this last year on at least 2 or 3 occasions when they were available. I warned you at the time, if you needed one, you should buy it now. Otherwise, you may end up having to wait in perpetuity. So this is all as I said, and it will probably get back in stock at some point. How many they get and how fast they sell out usually doesn't take very long, but it's still on their website as an active product that is currently not in stock. So the answer to your question is yes and no. For a while, there were some sellers selling them for twice the price at Amazon, and even those have sold out, unfortunately. You could certainly write to Corsair and let them know you want to buy one. I don't know that it's going to do much, but I suppose if enough people did that, it might sort of pressure them to make that a priority. It has been a #1 selling case for them for many years, and there's really no competition for that, in my opinion. So I would advise you to go to the Corsair website, look at the 200R, click the button and notify me via email when available, and then check back at my site regularly, because I do post on my Twitter page, and I post usually on the YouTube post page when stuff like that becomes available. If you're not following me on Twitter, strongly recommend it. Link is in the video notes below this video. I will put up articles and special sales that I don't make any commission from often, that I think are a good deal and they're of the moment. So if you're not watching it daily, that case could come in. When I'm made aware of it, I post it, and if you're not checking it regularly, by the time you check it, it could already be sold out. So just something to keep in mind, and how to prepare yourself to be alerted multiple different ways. Following me on Twitter and asking for the email notification from Corsair, and see which one you get first. But yeah, there's no telling when they come in, and there's no telling how many they get, and there's no telling how fast they sell out. They're usually limited to 2 per person. Is Generation 5 on the PCIe slots? Yes, it is. Thank you, Len. Thanks for the question. Chrissy says, thank you, Carrie. I appreciate your channel and chats. Hey, thank you, Chrissy. Thanks for joining us here. We're glad that you hung out with us today. Slappy says, Carrie, I'm going to repurpose an 8-year-old computer and replace the CMOS battery. Is it still necessary to leave it plugged in? If you don't leave it plugged in, it's going to drain that CMOS battery faster, but that's entirely up to you. Keith Benjamin says, Carrie, do you prefer PayPal contributions or Amazon US card? Usually the items that I buy to do these videos, including the cameras, the equipment, and the hardware, mostly is sourced from Amazon. So if an Amazon gift card is sent, Amazon doesn't take any cut of it. And I'm probably going to spend the money at Amazon anyway. PayPal is going to take a cut. Either way, I appreciate any contribution, however it's submitted. Only through Amazon gift cards can I receive the money that quickly without any fees, and I'm going to spend it at Amazon anyway. So my preference, of course, is Amazon gift cards, but again, any contribution of any support is always appreciated, never expected, but always appreciated. And thank you for asking. All right. Ricky B says, I have a really nice NZXT case with my fast new 2-year-old PC from Carrie. Still love my Carrie built PC. Right on, Ricky. That's music to my ears. I'm glad to hear that. All right, guys. Well, that looks like that's it for the questions. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I will try to be live more often. I'm still getting things back in gear. And boy, I'll tell you what, just getting back into the groove of things. I've been on getting out of vacation mode very slowly this year. But you know what? That's okay. Just a little recuperation time. And then I've got a lot of work to catch up on. So I'm working some late nights off camera, just trying to get caught up. I'll feel a lot better when I get a few computers shipped out. So that's keeping me busy off camera. In the meantime, I'm still trying, as I said, to make a little bit more time throughout the week, at least for some short live videos. I like hanging out with you guys, and there's always stuff to talk about. I mean, this thing moves quick, you know, this technology. It's always something going on every day. In the meantime, thanks so much, all my friends in blue, for keeping it civil in the chat, and all my supporters and new supporters, thanks for joining the Tech Club. If you're new, I hope you'll come back and join us again. And it was a great chat session. I didn't feel like I had to defend myself, which really gets annoying. And I appreciate you guys for making, you know, being kind to one another and taking that burden off of me so I could focus on my content. I will look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Once again, I thank you for the contributors today during the live stream, for the super chats, the gift cards, the PayPal contribution. Thank you once again. I'll try to be back Thursday. I don't think I'll have time tomorrow. Should have time Thursday. And of course, I'm always live every Friday at 1 o'clock Arizona time. This is currently Pacific time, but when daylight savings happens next month, then I'm going to be an hour ahead of Pacific time. Arizona never moves their clocks. So everybody else moves their clocks up or down an hour. Arizona never does. So for half of the year, Arizona's the same time as Pacific time. And in the other half of the year, we're an hour ahead of that. It gets a little confusing. But 1 o'clock every Friday, I'm live, and I hope you will join us in the chat. In the meantime, thanks for hanging out. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.